Welcome to ShePropTalk, the podcast for SheProp. I'm Beverly from Downen Creative Studios, and today is our very, very first podcast ever, and I have invited Sharon from Sharon Rose Cosplay to talk to me for the very first podcast. I'm very excited. I'm a little nervous because this is the first time I've ever hosted a podcast, but I know that Sharon is a pro, and this is going to be a really fun conversation. And welcome, Sharon!
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Beverly. I'm really excited to be here. I feel like so far, but also so close because I can see you.
I know. Thank God for technology. It's so great to be able to do this. And yeah, I'm just excited that we get to connect. You're on the East Coast, right?
I am. I'm a Pennsylvania girl. But I actually have some family on the West Coast.
Oh yeah?
So, yeah, in the I have some family in California and also in the Olympia, Seattle areas of Washington. So,
well, have you ever been to Emerald City Comicon?
I have not, but I would love to. It's sincerely on my bucket list. No joke. I have that like dream list of conventions I'd love to get to, and Emerald City's one of them.
Well, we're gonna have to get you out here because it is awesome. I know you have a whole ton of fans up here. Me being one of the biggest ones, so I would love to fangirl over you in person.
I would love to come out. That would be amazing. So we'll talk after this podcast.
yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's very cool. Well, yeah. I mean, there's so much I want to talk to you about because I've been a huge fan of yours for a long time. When I started cosplaying, I think you might have been starting at the same time. But I was so inspired by your Captain America costume.
Thank you.
It just blew my mind. And I mean, the wig for one, just
with my victory rolls.
Oh my God. And I mean, I remember seeing that and thinking like, wow, she did kind of her own design and her own style. She put her own twist into that. She made it really personal, and that just really resonated with me. So is that something that you carry in a lot of your costumes? Is that...
I do. I think for me, what I really love about cosplay is it's this whole range, right? So I have some amazing friends who I look up to who love to do screen accurate things. And I'm in awe of that because there's this whole process of researching all the specific textures and duplicating that. And then there's this whole other end of the spectrum of people, creating their own designs. And I love all of it. I love both. But I think my gut go-to is to create kind of my own interpretation or design of a classic beloved character.
Yeah.
Usually from comics.
Yeah.
Usually from comics. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And that storytelling that goes into that.
Well, your designs are just mind-blowing, and I was going to ask you do you mentioned that you mostly get inspired from comics, or that's where your costumes are inspired from?
Usually, yeah.
Do you have favorite characters or like a kind of a character that really resonates with you, that you connect with, that you just have to make?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, yes. It's funny. It's kind of very almost completely different kinds of characters. There's almost no middle ground. So I'm wearing Captain America, ironically. I didn't know we were going to be talking about it. So I love Captain America for some of the reasons you mentioned. It was my first major build, and I really poured my heart into it. My first Captain America breastplate doesn't exist anymore because I didn't know what I was doing, and it kind of disintegrated. And so most of what you see is version 1.5 or 2.0.
Yeah.
But I love Cap because Captain America stands up for the little guy, and I love that Cap was a hero even before he had his superpowers. He had that just moral character to want to protect and honor those who maybe couldn't stand up for themselves. So I try to hold on to that. And I love the aesthetic too. In my version, I tried to really honor the comic book design with the scalloped, layered, leather scales, but to do it in a really feminine way. So I wanted to be very kind of, you know, feminine and even perhaps nods to pin up, but still look very strong. Yes. Like this is a person who really could lead people into battle.
Well, I would follow you into battle with that. It is so powerful. And I love that every 4th of July you post it. We see it a lot throughout the year. And I'm so glad that you indulge us with that that beautiful costume, because it's just stunning. And if you're listening, if you haven't seen Sharon's Captain American cosplay, you need to go find it right now and fawn all over it, because it's amazing.
Thank you.
Can we talk about that? How you made that a little bit? Like, what kinds of materials did you use for the breastplate?
So the breastplate is foam, and that surprises a lot of people, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So probably one of the most like proud of myself moments I had was when I was at a convention, and there was this booth of beautiful leather work. And one of the ladies who was working there, she called me over because she saw me from afar, and she goes, "How did you get this kind of patinaed finish on your leather?" And I go, "It's not leather." And so
oh my gosh.
You know, the fact
That's
that
great.
You know, once she got up close, she realized, but I tricked a leather worker, and that made me feel really
that is so cool.
Yeah.
So how did you learn how to be such a badass, right?
With
do
both.
you have a background in making
I do.
creation?
I have a background in art, but not necessarily in costuming. Mm-hmm. So this is the most challenging canvas, if you will, that I've ever worked with. My background is in visual art and communications, and my fine art end of that was much more just 2D, so illustration and painting. Wow. And I love sculpting as well. So I think for me, this is sort of filling that void of being able to work in this really complicated 3-dimensional space. But in terms of the foam and the costuming, I had no idea what I was doing. I truthfully, I had been to Comicons. I've been going to Comicons for a while with my husband. We're both huge nerds. We love all things geek. And so I've always really admired when I would see other people going to these events, and I could tell the artist in me was just singing with joy, because I could tell, oh my gosh, I see what you did to make that, you know, and talking with these incredibly creative people. I remember talking to an Iron Man cosplayer who, this is before I ever cosplayed, and I to this day remember it because he used the pieces of plastic ice cube trays to make the spine part of, like,
oh my gosh,
like toilet plunger holders to create arm pieces. I mean, he was just brilliant. Cool. So I was just really inspired. But in terms of the foam, I did a lot of research online. I think that's something that people who are new to cosplay, I would just encourage you to know that for those of us who look like we have our acts together, you only really usually see the finished product. You're not seeing the literally hundreds of hours of playing with materials and messing up, right? We mess up all the time, but then we learn from it. So much,
yes.
Yeah, and I went to YouTube, and I did a lot of research before I dove in, and I have to credit more than anyone in terms of just the foundation of me learning is Evil Ted.
Oh God, yes.
I know.
All praise Evil Ted.
Ted is amazing. I talk about Ted probably at every single convention I guest at, and I'm always like, go follow Evil Ted. He's not evil. He's a real nice guy.
I know. Yeah, the looks on people's faces when I'm like, you need to go find Evil Ted. I was just at a small convention in Eugene here in Oregon, and someone was talking to me about foam and, you know, like, how do I get started? It's like, okay, I'm going to write this name down for you, and you need to go check it out. I was like, it's Evil Ted. He's amazing. And they were looking at me like, Evil Ted? I'm like, no, really. He's not evil. He's the nicest guy ever. Yeah, but you need to go follow him. You need to go look at his YouTube videos. It's So that's actually how I kind of got started with the foam as well. So the first foam helmet that I ever made was for my husband. It was a Magneto helmet. And I didn't really know. I think it was like the first time I'd really looked on YouTube to go find a do it myself kind of a thing, and I stumbled across this video. Thank God, it was like thank you so much, Ted. That literally changed everything for me. Was that video, because it seemed like the first one that I saw was about patterning, and then the second one was about how to use the foam. And I mean, just having those tools, I was so inspired to go out and start making my own stuff, and then
me too.
end the story there.
He not only shows you how to do things, but he explains why. He's so good at explaining all the steps and why they're important in the order that they're in. So I felt really empowered to not be afraid to just dive in and start making stuff with them. So thank you, Evil Ted. I don't know if
I know. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll do a little shout out to him.
Sure.
Gosh, I have so many questions for you. Oh, Sharon, you seem to just knock these costumes out of the park in really quickly. So I want to know whatever voodoo it is that you've been doing, please share. Because and I remember the Maleficent costume that you made. Yes. You started it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do abs. And oh, look, it's all done and it's pretty. And I started it like a week ago and now I'm wearing it. And now it's like, it's just unbelievable. Like how do you do that? I know a lot of us want to make things faster.
Right. That's a good question. So I will say the reason I'm able to do things now in a week or two, it took 4 to 5 years to get to like my 1 week costumes are really 4 years in the making, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So when I first started, it would take me months, literally no joke, months and months to do my more complicated costumes, and even to this day, depending on what I'm working on and the intricacy and complexity, it may still also take months. But the reason I'm able to do some projects much more quickly is because I have now done so many breastplates that I have. I about 2 or 3 cosplays in, I wisened up and I started keeping my pattern pieces. I started writing on them much more clearly and transferring them to much more stable, like thicker cardstock instead of just paper. So I have these big manila folder that I have my patterns, and they're kind of still a hot mess, but they're still super accessible. So I was able to, for Maleficent, grab 2 of my breastplate patterns that I had already created, and I knew they would fit me perfectly to me. Mm-hmm. And I sort of MacGyvered them together a little bit. And then I built the base. And then from there, it was really easy to go on top. And then the other reason Maleficent was faster, and this is something I plan to incorporate into future builds. I'm really excited to do this, and I want to do some tutorials on it, actually, is the interesting kind of reptilian pattern that I have that's raised. That was actually from Tandy Leather. And I'm finding that I love that cosplay is becoming more mainstream, because I think that leather companies and fabric companies are now offering so many more things, and it is toward our target demographic. So I know that I've seen textured, scaled pleathers and things like that at Joann's. So what I did was I just contact cemented that on top of my existing pattern.
Gosh,
and then it's less to paint. It's less to paint because, I don't have to paint that. So it shaved my time down so much for Maleficent.
It was brilliant.
The magic. So my encouragement to people who want to get faster is save your patterns.
Yeah,
and
that's a good tip.
Yeah, I think if you take more time at the front end to really get a good body form, take all that time to really develop a great pattern that's a go-to. And I feel like you are probably, the poster child for that, because you've developed amazing patterns that are available for download, right? So you have some really great basics that I think will save people a lot of time too, which is awesome.
Well, so that was my Epic Echo pattern business that I have with my friend Heather. She developed most of those patterns initially, and then we both worked together to digitize them and to make them something that was understandable and easily to download and all that. So she's sort of the patterning wizard, but I do make my own patterns for my own costumes. Right.
You're both rock stars.
Well, thank you. But the Wasp costume that I did recently, I used the same boots that I used for my Hela, and I still had the patterns from that, and that was great. That saved me a little bit of time, but it was still time that I saved, because I had saved those patterns. So I'm still learning how to make my patterns last longer, and that's a good tip with the cardstock or something that is a little sturdier. If you find something that is a base pattern that you're going to use. Like if you're going to be making van braces, like why not just make a general van brace pattern for yourself, or a pauldron? Those are so hard to do for like someone like me that I don't know. I always have a hard time with shoulders. But yeah,
it's the curves. Anything that's a complex curve it can be really challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're working with materials, do you mostly work with foam, or do you use Worbla, or what's your preferred material?
My preferred go-to is honestly foam, but I'm open to all material. I genuinely love working with a whole variety of materials. So I have used a little bit of Worbla, but usually if I need a thermoplastic, I have used Teraflex more than I've used Worbla. Only because, not dismissing Worbla, but I just, for me, I can literally get in my vehicle and drive to a place to pick up, Teraflex.
Yeah. And for anyone that's listening, Teraflex is another thermoplastic that you can get from a leather store like Tandy Leather. Right. But it has the same properties, although you can use contact cement with it to glue it together, and you can sand it, I believe. Yes. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I have. So, yeah, I really like Teraflex.
Yeah.
But for me, it is, I think it's interesting. For me, I think the reason I gravitated toward foam from the beginning was the cost factor.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, and I like that it's really lightweight. And the other thing for me too is I'm plus size, and my weight fluctuates a lot. I think perhaps more than a standard size body, which is fine, but I have to bear that in mind with costuming, right? So that I'm always able to fit into my pieces and I can bend. So I like that foam. I can flex that a little bit more to get in and out of something that has to be really fitted to me without me worrying that it could snap or break. Yeah. Or feel like I'm super rigid and can't move too much.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I started out thinking that Worbla was king, which I'm not saying anything bad about Worbla. I've just learned to use it for different applications. Like right now, I use it mostly for support underneath things. If I need something to be a little bit more rigid, or I need to connect things to something else, and I'll throw in some Worbla on there if I need to, or that kind of thing. But the one thing the foam is my go-to as well.
Yeah, foam is my go-to. I will say though that there are times that I really do want that rigidity. And so I want to play more with thermoplastics on that end. And I'm also interested, I know Smooth On has some products that will harden. Is it Epsilon Pro, I think, is something I'm going to be playing with here soon.
Yes.
So, yeah, I really want to play with it because, again, I really do love building out of foam, but sometimes you really need that harder kind of exterior shell for stability.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're making.
The Hello Horns that I made, that's what's coated on there, is the Epsilon Pro. I love that stuff. The Epsilon Pro stays a little bit flexible, so you can have you can take it to a con and get it kind of beat up a little bit, and chances are it won't get damaged really very much. Like the only parts of the horns that got any kind of damage whatsoever were the very, very tips, and that was because I didn't put enough layers on the Epsilon.
Oh wow, that's encouraging.
Yeah, and you only need the trial size. You don't need the big giant. Sorry, but the trial size will last for a long time.
That's good to know.
But yeah, no, that stuff is great, and they're located locally to you.
They are. I've actually talked to a few of the distributors, or the people who were doing product things at conventions, and it's on my to-do list to go visit at some point, to go visit the actual plant and see action. I love that. Yeah.
Well, if you do go, keep an eye out for my Hello costume, because it's floating around over there somewhere.
I will. I'll take a photo. I'll do a selfie with it. It's you, but not you.
Perfect. I would love that so much. Yeah. I love Smooth On. They're so great. I love that they've kind of realized, like so many other companies out there, that cosplay is like there's a big business involved with that. And
I agree.
If they provide the tools and if it's cost effective, then or relatively anyway, then we'll latch onto it like crazy.
It's true. It's true.
So your costumes, I went in and took a whole bunch of screen captures let's talk about your phenomenal Wonder Woman. And then we're going to talk about Loki, because I just can't get enough of that Loki. But your Wonder Woman. So tell me, was that inspired by something that you saw, or was that your own design? I'm unfamiliar with the origins of this design, so tell me about it.
I was well, first of all, I love Wonder Woman. I've always loved Wonder Woman. I don't know what little girl perhaps hasn't grown up thinking Wonder Woman was amazing.
Yes. She's amazing. Everyone wants to be Wonder Woman.
I know. I've always also loved Greek mythology, and there's a running joke with some of my friends and I who are avid comic book fans. I love, just throwing this out now so it's on the record, I love both Marvel and DC.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I love peanut butter and jelly. I know. It's like crazy. I know. It's blasphemy.
Me too. I'm with you on that one. Hippolyta and Hela.
I love it for different reasons, you know. But the running like joke or observation or what have you is for me and for many of my friends, we've always said we've seen a lot of similarities between the DC characters and kind of the gods of yesteryear. You know, they're much more kind of idealized. Their power levels are like incredibly high. They're seen almost like you would see the immortals, if you will. And I love Marvel characters because not all of them are like that. There's a lot more that are kind of human and a little more flawed, but because of that, they have to overcome things in a different way. So, but specific to the DC characters, especially ones you'd see in the Justice League, I have always seen a lot of similarities between very specific Greek god characters and kind of their potential comic book counterpart. So for me, Zeus, the leader of the gods, I've always seen Superman in kind of that light. Wonder Woman, I've always seen a lot of correlations between the goddess of war and wisdom. So Athena. And so for me, I've always wanted to do a Wonder Woman, but that nodded to perhaps a little bit more of a historical kind of take on it. Still not incredibly perfectly historically accurate, but just a nod to that. And I had this whole idea to do an entire run of all of these different characters, not just Wonder Woman, but like the Justice League as the gods of Mount Olympus. So I drew a lot. I did a ton of research. Oh my gosh, so much research on the characters and what makes them tick, both the comics and the god counterpart. Oh, and I tried to really honor both in the costume design of them.
Well,
so,
it just shines through. I mean, that shield is just unreal. I'm looking at it right now. It is so big. It's just, it's so great. I mean, it truly is like otherworldly and godly. And
thank you. I really wanted to nod to kind of just the jaw-dropping scale of actual Hoplon shields. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but they were incredibly large, and you know they were intended that you really could, in essence, shield your body, your full body if needed. But here's the thing, though, I don't have actual Wonder Woman muscles. So
you don't have to be Wonder Woman.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
I really want this massive scale, but I don't have the upper body strength. So that was a bit of a challenge. I used a couple of things. I used the general concept of punished props around shield pattern. Yeah. So it looks like, you know, kind of like a pizza, if you will, all these kind of slices that go together.
And you used foam, I'm guessing.
I did. I used foam for the exterior, but then what I did I don't know how to explain this part. So it's, you know, you have the dome, but then there's kind of a straight part inside that sandwiches it. Okay. And that I used foam core. I used like the styrofoam foam core because it's a lot more rigid and it's very, very, very light. So that really helped to stabilize it. So I guess that would be my tip. And then there's a little pocket of a cavity. And I purposely made a hole so I can keep my cell phone and stuff in the back of my
shield pockets. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Wow, cool.
Yeah, that design was kind of a dream cosplay for me. I wanted you know, if you look closely, instead of the eagle, there's an owl, which is the nod to Athena. Yeah. all those little tiny things I cut out of foam. It's honestly, it's mostly foam.
So, did you sculpt that owl? Because it's phenomenal.
I didn't. I didn't sculpt it. It's
just foam.
I mean, it's
foam. You made it. You created.
Yeah.
You create from scratch.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Please teach us your ways, Sharon, because it is just.
There's a lot of copy. A lot of copy. But now that you mentioned sculpting, a product that I used recently actually for a Countess glove, which was really intricate, was
yes.
the TNT Cosplay Supply. They have their C4 compound air dry clay.
Is that the white clay?
They have it in white, gray, and black, I think.
Okay.
But yes, it's awesome. And when I first ordered it, I had a fear that it would be just exactly the same as Crayola Model Magic, which I've used for other things, but that can be really brittle though when it's dry.
Yeah.
So, but it's not. It has a lot more strength to it, and I think other companies are coming out with similar products now, which is great. So. I'm so used to having to build up the foam and then carve it all out with a Dremel, and this is going to save so much time.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
So with that foam, how do you just glue it onto the into place wherever you want it to go? What kind of glue do you use for that?
You could, in theory, probably sculpt it right on top of. Let's say you have a breastplate and you want to create details on top of it. I envision that you could go ahead and sculpt kind of on top of it so that you get it to fit your form exactly and let it dry. But it won't stick innately to the EVA foam. So once it's cured completely, you can contact cement that down or high temp hot glue.
Oh, awesome. And then how do you, I'm totally using this podcast to get all of my tips.
Yeah.
Like, I could ask you anything I want about this stuff. Yeah. So then when you're ready to paint, how do you prep the surface? Is it like a porous surface, or is it something that you can just, what did you use?
I plasti dipped and then painted just like I would. But it to me, when it's cured, it definitely feels like it has a very, very similar texture and a hint of that porous quality as actual EVA foam. So it's so interesting to me. It's stronger in terms of its flexibility, I think, than regular EVA foam, but it does have that sort of spongy, you can kind of compress it and it'll give and then kind of go back to where it was originally. You can do that like you would with foam. It's an interesting material. I definitely want to play with it a lot more, I think. Yeah. So
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I have a little sample of it that I got my hands on, and I've used it for some press molds on the project that I'm working on right now. I was like, what else can I put in these press molds? So I've tried that, and I noticed that there was a little bit of shrinkage after it dried, just a little bit, but
just a hint. Yeah. I had a lot of people ask me about the shrinkage. I did notice it so much, but I think it may have just been the nature of what I was making that I didn't even think to observe it. For what I was personally doing, I think a little bit of shrinking would not have made a difference in the fit or the overall aesthetic. I kind of want to play with it a little more to see if I noticed it for more substantial things. Yeah.
I gotta really try that stuff out. I've got my list of things that I want to try is so huge.
Oh my gosh, me too.
So what else? If you could get your hands on one material now and learn all about it, what's something that you've been dying to learn how to do?
Oh gosh,
learn how to use.
I want to work with Zebra, and I have plans to do that. So that will be. I know you are working with that too. I've heard it takes very fine details so much better than other things. So I'm really excited to play with that. I think for me, moving forward, I'd like to learn to play a little bit more with silicone.
Yeah.
It scares me. Basically, I want to learn a lot more in regard to sculpting with wet clay or other kinds of clays, and then just the entire process of various formats of casting, which sounds incredibly daunting. I think I have the sculpting skill set. So the actual sculpting part of it isn't what's freaking me out. It's more just, oh my gosh, making a mold so it's done properly and how to cast properly and how to use different materials with different kinds of molds. That's what I'd really love to get into.
Yeah.
I'm just a little scared, but I mean, I've done so much so far. If someone had told me 4 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing now, I would have laughed. I would have thought, there's no way I'd be sewing and doing all this stuff. Sewing more than anything is my biggest fear, by the way, which is shocks a lot of people.
No,
I say yes
I'm with you there.
But you did what?
Well, you know, no one's flipping the seams on that suit. Let me just tell you. That was a very like, let's hobble this together. I made my patterns with like tape, so.
Well, but you know what I found?
It worked. It's fine.
Yeah, I have found that talking to a lot of different people with a lot of different skill sets and experiences, that a lot of times when you think, oh my gosh, the way I'm doing this is so not the appropriate way, or, you know, this is so much, for a lot of things I've learned, like, no, even the professionals are doing things, you know, sometimes they do things that way because it's perfectly fitted to you. And if it works for you, then it works, you know? So I think that that's a big thing. Like the way that you might approach something, or me or someone else, we could approach things 3 slightly different ways, but if it's our comfort zone, and if we have really polished end result, then why change that? Yeah.
I
just
think
as encouragement.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's really hard to remember that as you're working on things, because I think everybody suffers from imposter syndrome, especially when they're working on something that, like sewing, that, you know, I don't feel so confident with, or a new material that I haven't worked out all the kinks on, or at least I don't feel like, or I'm using it in a different way that's not supposed to be traditionally used for that. So I think that imposter syndrome kind of gets in our way sometimes. It's hard to remember that there's no one right way. Like there's at least a couple of different ways to do everything. And if you're learning along the way, I think that whatever that process is fine, because you're exploring, and it's hard to keep that in perspective though sometimes, and not get down on yourself when you're like your pile of like, this didn't work out, is getting higher and higher, you know, and you're running out of materials, or you cut on the wrong bias, or whatever, however you say that. I'm not
it's so funny. I feel that deeply. You know, I definitely struggle with imposter syndrome. Probably more than people would realize, especially when it comes to like sewing or sculpting or things like that. I don't know. I think I have a good eye for design, but the actual technical skill, I just like, don't look at my work. Or there's people that I admire so much that I want to absorb everything they do like a sponge, you know. I want to just learn from people. So I don't know. I think it helps maybe to know that others struggle too. Even the people that you maybe look up to, like the people that you look up to think, oh my gosh, I'd love to be at their level. They may be looking at you in other areas and thinking, I wish I could do that thing. So we all have different skills, which is really cool.
I totally agree. And I love about our community, especially in SheProp, which we got to like talk about how awesome SheProp is.
I love SheProp so much. I really do.
I'm so glad that we have that community. And so if anyone is listening, the 2 people that are listening to this by the time we release this.
The 1.5 people.
It's 1.5 people. SheProp is a Facebook group that is geared towards female and non-binary folks that are makers or artists or fans of that sort of thing, that just want to have a safe space that they can connect with others and ask questions, or maybe present their things, and without any fear of, and I'm just going to say it, mansplaining or being put down or bullied or anything like that, which is rampant online. So we created this group so that we could be devoid of that. And so far it's been just incredible.
I love it.
And I'm so glad you're a huge part of this group, Sharon. So I appreciate everything that you do, all the motivation that you provide for everyone there. It's just great. Yeah, I love the SheProppers,
prop stars, SheProppers.
Yep.
I love all of it.
I know. It's all great.
And one thing I love about it specifically is, you know, I've seen people be able to make posts about, hey, I'm working on, you know, this bodice and I need the fit to work or what have you. I love that people can post work in progress photos. Sometimes you need to be able to look at a photo, but that particular photo may involve, you know, an undergarment or
Right.
or something that
Yeah.
on other forums I know would be met with so much being treated like an object or just inappropriate commentary. So
Yes.
we've not seen that. It's been so refreshing to know that I can post my questions here and not be talked down to or belittled, and it's wonderful. And I also love to, I remember there was a situation where someone had posted saying they didn't feel quite so confident in their outfit. You know, they felt proud of what they had done, but they weren't happy with the fit. They couldn't quite figure out, why am I not happy with this? Like, what would you suggest? And instead of it only being, you look great, which is positive and uplifting and important, it was that plus, here's constructive options because you asked. You know, there was that invitation for constructive criticism.
Yeah.
So
I remember that post.
I'm so proud of our group. They were filled with the best suggestions, and then that individual posted a finished after. I know.
I think all of us, like, there was a collective like scream of like just like yay, because that I feel proud. Like I want that every day, all the time, every day. Yeah. I love this group, and I'm so glad that people like it's working out for people, and that it's filling the need that they have maybe didn't know that they needed, or you know, we see people come to the group, be like, oh my God, I'm so glad I found you, or we've been seeing lots of posts recently, like long time lurker, first time poster, so it's just great. I love seeing everyone's participation, and it's wonderful. I can't say enough wonderful things about it.
And I love that, you know, there's everyone in there from total beginners to people who are, you know, all the way up through people who are actually professionals in certain areas of the industry, whether that be makeup or sewing or having. So it's a really refreshing, fantastically positive, and really, really knowledgeable, like really incredible group of people who are great at answering questions and encouraging folks. I love it.
Yeah. Sometimes I see people posting in other forums and other groups, and I want to go grab her and say, hey, come over to SheProp and post that question over here, because
we have cookies.
Yes, we have cookies. We have cookies, and oh my gosh, no, I love it. I love it.
Me too.
It's sometimes the internet is kind to us, and sometimes it is not. It's hard. It's hard sometimes to avoid completely some of the negative things. And I don't even like talking about them, but I think that it's important to talk about it because it helps. I think that it helps us all learn how to cope with dealing with negative stuff. So I am curious if you have any tips for anyone that might be feeling like they can't post anything, or maybe have had that kind of experience. And just are afraid to step foot back into the internet cosplay light
world.
Again.
The world. Well, first, I would just like to say that your experiences are valid, and you know, words do hurt, and experiences do hurt. So I first want to just acknowledge, if you have experienced those hurts or feelings of trepidation, I hear you, and you're not alone, but I just want you to know your voice is heard. And I wish that you didn't experience those things, but the internet can be really cruel. So I just want to start there. And I just want you to know that, remember why you want to cosplay in the first place. And that can be hard sometimes, but I have come to a place where I tell myself and remind myself anytime I start feeling down, or if I've received any negative comments, that I don't cosplay for that person who's making that comment. I cosplay for me. I cosplay for my joy. I cosplay because I am an artist and I want to challenge myself. I'm not in competition with anybody else out there. It's for me. You know, I choose to be inspired by other people's work and not feel down about other people's quality of work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
So I just want to say that for every negative comment you might receive, there are so many more who would look at what you do and think you're just the most incredible person, because you are. It takes so much, it takes so much, it takes a lot of guts to make something or put something on. I talk a lot about making because I make, but not everybody does. So even just the act of, purchasing or commissioning something and putting yourself out there to be photographed or to go to a convention, to put yourself on that con floor, that takes so much guts. It really does. And you are stronger, infinitely more strong, and show, more integrity than a person who would write some vile commentary behind, lurking behind a keyboard. They don't know you. They don't know what it took for you to put that on. Exactly. They don't know how they didn't spend 6 months making that costume, or 3 months trial and error learning how to do the makeup that way. So just hold your head high and surround yourself with people who will love you and support you. I think that's a big thing.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah.
Finding
voices,
that
community.
Yeah. Find those voices that will edify you and build you up with compassion and empathy and encouragement. Find those people you can go to and feel safely like, hey, I'm struggling with this particular component of this outfit. Can you help me with what am I doing wrong? What would you suggest? Those people that you won't feel bad about whatever they have to say. You'll feel uplifted and educated and encouraged to move forward. Yeah. So if there are voices that you feel are tearing you down, like, pay attention to those red flags and be focused in who you surround yourself with. Yeah.
You said that so perfectly. I sometimes struggle with putting into words exactly what you just said. So thank you for saying that so eloquently. But yeah, I have been noticing that it's been fun to see people on SheProp posting things that comments that they've gotten in other places. And we don't necessarily it's not a man bashing group. Number one, SheProp is not for, no, we don't hate our male counterparts. We just need to have our own space. But it's been kind of nice to be able to see that some folks have been bringing that to them. And maybe that is a vehicle, a vessel for helping people get beyond that initial turn it into something else and find camaraderie and strength together with other like-minded people.
Yeah, and to know that you're not alone. Yeah, right?
You're not alone. Exactly. Yeah.
There are people who have, are literally, this is their career. Cosplay has become their career. They are respected and known in the community. They're clearly incredible artists, and yet they too are receiving some of these not so nice comments. So, and
sometimes more, like a barrage of them. It's just crazy. Yeah. Right.
So just to know that, hey, those comments are not a reflection of you doing anything wrong. They're truly just a reflection of that person who's making the comment, their insecurities or fears or hatred or what have you.
Yeah. So whenever I get a comment that is, not intended for anything nice, we'll put it that way. I try to think of where this person was when they made that post. And I always put them in the bathroom, like when they were probably sitting on the toilet texting that or typing that. So that instantly brings it down. Yes. But
oh my god.
That's
a good tip.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, so you can have that. You can have that. Just visualize them. It's like speaking in public. I've never visualized a crowd of people with it like naked or whatever they say to do. No, because I think that would be more traumatic than anything. But yeah, to maybe put that troll in a place that is truly where a troll would probably be, like hanging out under a bridge or in a garbage can, or like Oscar the Grouch kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But so I could talk to you forever. I'm having so much fun.
Me too.
So much fun talking to you.
Me too.
I really hope that I get to meet you in person and check out whatever it is you happen to be wearing, and ask you all about it and ask you about how you made it and everything. But what is next for you? Are you working on something right now, or do you have a con coming up, or what's going on?
Good question. I have a convention, Ocean City Con in Maryland in December. I don't remember the exact date. I'm the worst. Sorry, Ocean City Con. It's on their website. But outside of that, I think that's the last one of the year. And then I'm looking forward very much to KatsuCon in February. As far as am I working on anything? So the honest answer is right now I am frantically working to just clean my poor studio.
It's the end of the year cleaning.
It's terrifying. Oh my gosh. So I know everyone works differently. I tend to do this thing where I will get inspired, do a ton of research, and just like as soon as I finally start the project, then I dive in 2000%. So, but then I go through periods of lulls in between that. I need a break after this burst of intensity because I don't know. I'm kind of 2% or 2000% with anything I
get that.
I'm just sure you do. I sense you may have a similar
just a little bit, yeah.
Just a
little
bit. You know, I can go for this like super creative bursts for 3 months of like, what even is sleep? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But then after that, if I don't give myself kind of a break, I get burnt out, and I think that that's an important thing to talk about too. Is those kind of like slumps. So I do have some projects on the horizon. Some I can't quite talk about, but one that I can talk about, which I hope to do in 2019, is I really want to do She-Ra, an original design of her at some point.
God.
I love foam, I love armor, I love props, so of course I want to tackle that and kind of do some battle damage, I think. So
yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's so exciting. Oh my God, I can't wait to see that coming together.
And then, gosh, I don't know. I think I'm at a place now where I think I'm no longer afraid to want to tackle some of my dream projects. I think years ago I had this thing where I was like, I'm not, I have to be this good at these things to be able to do this project. And now I'm just like, I've done so many things that when I first started the project, I thought, I don't know how I'm going to make a firebow, but I'm going to make a firebow.
Do you ever tell yourself like, oh, I'm going to figure that out eventually. Let me just focus on this one thing. Like, I'll figure it out.
Me for like the past like 5 to 7 months. Like, I don't know, but it's like literally, I'm going to definitely do that thing, but I don't know how I'm doing it yet. So, that's so funny. That's me.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I have some, and I love Star Wars. I always have. I'm a Star Wars. And so I always get people who ask me like, why have you not done Star Wars anything yet? And I think, because the screen accuracy makes me like panic inside. But I think I'm at a place now where I'm gonna do some stuff and some things. I really want to make the creature Salacious Crumb so badly. Yes, he's like my dream little creature dude, because creatures are my jam. I love making creatures and things like that.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and then I want to do Leia when she's disguised as the bounty hunter. So that would
involve my gosh,
right?
Yes.
So cool, right? She's super badass. So
yeah, we need all the badass costumes, all the badass ladies. That is very cool. What is that? Is it the Bosch?
Bosch? Yeah. Bosch.
Sorry, Star Wars fans.
You may take my Star Wars Force Geek Girl card, because I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But
I don't know either, so we're together on this. Please don't crucify us, Star Wars.
No, I know. Sorry. And I've been watching. I've seen there's a few people who I follow and really admire their work who've done really cool stuff with foam and or other materials, like a combo. So Sam Apple Cummings is one who he did a really beautiful, I think his was foam, and so did Core Geek.
Yes.
Eric did. Oh my gosh, I just like stare at it like, I hopefully mine will look half that good when I do mine.
His helmet is just awesome.
It's beautiful.
It's
I love his props. I really admire him as a prop maker. I like that he uses kind of a variety of different materials to accomplish whatever his end goal is. So it's cool. It's cool to kind of see how other makers approach, like, how do I duplicate this form? How do I make it? How is it going to be used by the maker or wearer? Like, do I need it to be light? Do I need it to light up? It's really interesting to me to see how people approach things like helmets or swords, or like, I call them props, like true props. You know, how do you approach those things?
For sure. And how do you, like, how do you get a perfect circle? That is really hard. And so I really appreciate that. Eric will post lots of work in progress pictures, or like for the Wasp helmet that he did, he'll, post a whole bunch afterwards. And
so beautiful.
That helmet was just amazing. But yeah, I love seeing other people's work in progress pictures, and I think that helps us as a community, as a whole, to kind of grow together and feel a little bit more like a community when we can share our tips and our tricks and our methods.
I agree. It's interesting. I know there are some who don't.
And that's okay.
And I don't know. Like, I can absolutely respect if it's a situation where, perhaps, I know for some it might be their livelihood. Maybe they perfected a method of something, and that's their bread and butter of literally putting a roof over their head. So they might share some information about how they do it, but maybe not all the specifics.
Oh, sure.
Which I absolutely respect. But there are other times when I think, like, really, you're not willing to share like that makeup tip so that others could do their thing. I don't know. For me, if someone comes to me and they have indicated that, like, they've tried to do their research and they've been doing things this way and they can't figure quite out, like, what am I doing wrong, or how can I make this better? If they come to me with a question, I will give them a small novel.
Yeah.
I love to help others. I love to help others feel like empowered so that they can make their own art. That makes me happy to see when others come up to me and say, like, hey, I tried those tips that you said, and like I was able to finish this project I was working on. Oh my gosh, my heart explodes.
That is so great.
Like, so proud of people.
Yes. Oh, I love that too so much. Well, where are we going to see you next again? At the Maryland?
Yes, Ocean City, Maryland, in December.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm kind of quick. Look up the date.
That's okay.
Hold on one sec. And then at Comicon, which is Maryland, DC, in February. And that's a big one. You should come to that. You should totally come to that.
Ooh, Comicon. Yeah. I am from the East Coast, and I do love my East Coast friends. And
Are you from the East Coast?
Yeah, I grew up in Vermont.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then I've spent quite a bit of time in Massachusetts and Boston, in the Boston area. So yeah, I've been meaning to. I finally ran into Silhouette Cosplay at New York City Comicon. She is,
I love her.
Just my heart. Oh my gosh. And at a big con like that, I was just like, I can't believe I actually just ran into you. When does that happen? But yeah, I'll think about it. Eventually, yes. I want to do more East Coast cons, because I was at Atlanta and New York this last year, and that was a lot of fun. It's a lot of work to travel.
I know it is.
It takes a lot of time, and I guess I'm just an old lady because I get really tired after that too. It's like travel plus con. It's like,
no, I get that. I get that. So, the Ocean City Comicon is December 8th. Okay. Shameless plug. Go to that. It's a really fun one. For me, it's so funny. I think people have this misconception that I am an extrovert. But fun fact, I'm totally not. I am absolutely an introvert. So I love doing conventions. I love having the honor of being a guest or panelist at a lot of the ones on the East Coast. But after a con, I hermit so hard.
Yeah.
I need to like recharge my battery after every con.
I hear that. Yes. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. We obviously have a lot to talk about, so we'll have to do this again.
Absolutely.
Sometime.
Absolutely.
Yay!
And thank you so much for having me, honestly.
Oh my God.
I'm so excited for ShePropTalk. This is going to be really cool.
I am really looking forward to it. And I hope, like you, I am not really an extrovert. So this is something that I am also trying out to see if I can kind of work on that a little bit, because I feel like I need to work on my speaking and communicating with people. And no, you're awesome.
You're awesome.
You're awesome.
You're awesome.
You're awesome. So where can we find you? Where, if someone was looking for Sharon Rose Cosplay, where could we find you?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram are probably what I'm most active on. Just look up Sharon Rose Cosplay. I'm Sharon Rose Cos on Twitter. And I'm hopeful to set up my own website here in the future.
Yay!
For blogging and more, but technologies. So I'm working on it. But in the future, you'll be able to find me there. Again,
awesome.
Probably under Sharon Rose Cosplay.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Well, gosh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. Yay. Thank you. And until the next time, right? So
yes.
Right.
I'll see you. And thanks for listening, you guys.
Yes, thank you.
Bye. Bye.